Welcome to the Imperfect Dads podcast.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Devin.
We believe dads care deeply about their family and kids,
but they don't always have a space to discuss what their life looks like.
Our podcast is a space for dads to discuss the ups and downs of fatherhood.
And how they feel like they're holding it all together.
Or how they're not.
Thank you for joining us for this episode. On this episode, we have on Dean Wegner of Authentically American. Dean is a veteran and runs an apparel company focused on making everything in America. We talked about his time at West Point, his time as a ranger, how that high performance and lack of sleep prepared him to be a dad and an entrepreneur, having young kids while working, and a lot about the apparel industry and his drive to create more jobs in America. And also just like one more thing.
Dad, just start the episode.
Oh, my bad.
Well, tell me a little bit more about you guys, and would love to hear a little bit more about your background. I did a little glance, and Steve told me a little bit, but being a fellow dad, I love the theme.
Yes. So, Justin, do you want to lead in, or do you want me to talk first?
Sure. I'll lead in. I lived in Nashville, or moved to Nashville in 2008, and had a previous marriage up until 2015, and then met my now new wife, and then we have two kids, one is 3 and about the same age as Devin's last child.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Ada, and then my son, who is 5 months now, Briar, and he is a handful, not sleeping very much at all. So,
and he's what, like 5 months, right?
5 months, yeah. 5 months. I'm a little bit older of a dad. I'm 40 years old, so I promised myself I would never be like my dad, who was 39 when he had me, and then I end up having a kid at 40.
Well, they keep you young, Justin, and you're right in the throes of it there at that age.
Yeah. I'm just constantly tired. That's all I can say.
Yeah, so I lived in Nashville. I just recently moved to Denver area. So I'm in like Littleton, which is like a Denver suburb. And I lived in Nashville.
Highlands Ranch for a couple
of years. Yeah, I'm like on the other side of 470. So like as far south as you can get. So I can wave to Highlands Ranch from my like front porch.
Got it. So you're in Littleton.
Yes. So
it's a great area.
It is. So I lived in Nashville I went to Belmont. So I was there from 2006 to this past year. So 2024. I have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old, 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Fantastic. And so I'm assuming this is not the full-time job. What's the day job, or what keeps you guys busy outside of the podcast?
Peachtree Landscape. I'm a partner and an operations manager for Peachtree Landscape, which is a relatively large landscape company in the greater Nashville area. I went to school for landscape architecture at the University of Kentucky, so
is it residential or commercial or a little bit of both?
It's commercial.
Oh,
all commercial. Yep.
That's why I'm not familiar with it then.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, Justin, did your company try to do residential as well? You've expressed it before that staying in one lane seems to be more manageable.
We did. Before I even came on board, they were doing a mixture of residential and commercial. And then when I took over, it was just so hard to do both. I didn't have the time, so I just said, all right, we're going to strictly do commercial.
Focus. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
How about you, Devin?
I am a stay-at-home parent. So I've been a stay-at-home parent since 2019. Did work. Basically, we had 2 kids. They were both in daycare. And paying a second mortgage for someone else to watch our kids was really hard. My wife and I talked about it a lot. We realized she's always made a lot more money than I have. And it's like, I'm basically working to pay for daycare. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
So we had our 3rd kid in 2021. I know you have, 3 or 4 kids? Is that right?
Wow.
I was just counting, Devin. So my wife counts me as the 5th child, but we really have 4.
But you know what it's like where every single day you're just managing calendars. You're kind of a professional chauffeur and a personal chef. Like every time I'm like, I should go back to work. Then the kids have spring break. Then I'm like, well, maybe I should go back to work. Then they have a random 2 or 3 days off from school. And I'm like, I'm always reminded of how many conversations my wife and I don't have to have of who takes care of the kids today. I'm always the answer. And it's like that just relieves a lot of stress in day-to-day life.
You're fortunate, Devin, to be in that position. Some people
Absolutely
don't have that option.
Correct.
So that's a great position for you to be in.
It is. It is extremely lucky. I don't take it for granted. Yes, and I feel like we'll just reassess like, all right, this is still working. This is still good. My wife hasn't lost too many years off her life from working that stressful of a job that we know of. But like, yeah, no, if we're still able to do this, then I feel grateful and lucky that we are able to do this stuff.
What does she do then that keeps you
Yeah.
busy?
So she works for a beverage consultation company. So if you are a hospital system, an airport, or a restaurant system, then you have a beverage deal that is brokered. So her company comes in and negotiates those deals. So if you are like HCA, she has a lot of Nashville clients, or like she has like Philadelphia Airport. They will have like a 7-year contract that's signed, and at the end of the contract, they take the pouring rights out to bid, and her company comes in and helps negotiate it.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't even know that job existed.
There's also one for naming. One that she told me that exists, that I think is fascinating, is naming rights for stadiums. So whenever this, because so like Geodis Park, Nissan Stadium, that's a contract that was signed for so many years, and whenever that contract is up, then whoever owns the stadium can take it out to bid to see who else wants to pay to have their name on the side of the stadium.
Those are not inexpensive.
Yes,
right? Those are quite pricey.
pretty much so. So yeah, that's what she does. She works remote, so that was part of why we're able to move out here. Was my job is everywhere and her job is everywhere. So
To Justin's dismay.
yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Yes. Just put a hamper on the friendship with Justin. That's really what it was.
No. I don't mind it at all, and that gives me a reason to come out to Denver.
That's right. Come out, come ski, come to Breckenridge, come to Vale, whatever you
go.
want. Just stop at our house first.
That's right.
Having lived there, it is a wonderful place with 300 days of sunshine and the Rocky
Yes.
Mountains as a backdrop.
Yep. The amount of sunshine everyone told me about it, but I didn't realize how much sunshine it really gets out here until living out here. And it is constant sun, and it's really cool.
It is quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
Constant sun, but lots of cold, right?
No, actually, the sun, if you're out, like it can be 40 degrees, and if you're out in the sun, you're fine. Yeah. Anyway,
Awesome.
Dean, tell us a little about yourself. What do you do for a job? How many kids? All that good stuff,
So why don't we start personally, Devins?
Yes, let's do it.
So just last year's, in 2024, my wife Kelly and I, we celebrated anniversary number 30.
Nice.
Congratulations.
You guys don't know me yet, but I'm a lot to put up with. So
We'll find out.
incredibly thankful for her love and partnership.
So
and
she's a saint.
She is. I would put her in that camp, Justin. And, we have 4 amazing kids. We have daughters, 26 and 23. We have a 20-year-old son. He is a freshman right now at West Point. He's an Army hockey player like his dad, just fortunately much better than his dad. And then we also have a 15-year-old son we adopted from Ethiopia.
Cool.
Well, that's cool.
God, family, country is how the priorities lined up for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
That hopefully gives you a little snapshot of personally who I am and what's important to me.
Yes. Can you explain to me? I don't know a lot about this. What's it take to get into West Point? I feel like getting into West Point is a pretty huge accomplishment, isn't it?
So it can be extremely challenging. It's less than 10% every year that get in.
Okay.
And, very rigorous academics. So think of it like an Ivy League. I mean, we've got Vanderbilt here in Nashville. So that's the academic type of rigor. But then what West Point really looks for is leaders who are well-rounded. So not only do they have strong academics, but they're going to be involved in sports. They may be involved in community and volunteering or Boy Scouts. So they're really looking for somebody that, is well-rounded, not just great academically, but great athlete, because there's a lot of physical rigors at West Point. And then they want somebody that is involved in community, because the West Point mission is training cadets for a lifetime of service to our nation.
You went to West Point as well?
I did, Justin. So I graduated in 1993.
Awesome.
Short 35 years ago, which I don't feel that old, but when I start to say how long that is, I'm like, that's a long time.
Yeah, time flies, especially when you have kids.
Justin and I are just now starting to get to the age where we're approaching our 20-year anniversary from graduating high school. And we're like, are you sure that's me? Are you sure? Are you sure that's that? That can't be possible. So I can only imagine what it feels like to be like, no, it's been, 35 years since I got out of college. No.
And, I'm in the 5L club now, and 50, 70, 30 has been the mantra here in the 50s. So, you can be quite busy with 4 kids and being an entrepreneur and having our own business. There's not a lot of time, but physical activity and living a strong, healthy, fit lifestyle is important to me.
That's awesome.
Great. So you went into West Point, and then what service did you go into after that?
So what they do, Justin, your senior year at West Point, you choose a branch.
Okay.
And I had no idea how many different options there were. There's 18 different branches.
Wait, what?
18
I thought there were like 4.
So there's ones that you'd think of like infantry.
Yes.
There is armor, which is tanks, field artillery, all these combat arms, but then there's all the combat support and combat service support. So there's transportation, and there is finance and military police. I mean, it's a long list of options. And for me, I had narrowed it down to 2 choices. So one, I thought infantry. That's the heart and soul of the Army. And if you want to be a general in the Army, that's the largest branch, and that's usually going to be the best place to go. But you guys remember the very first Top Gun movie?
Yes.
Yep. So that was one of my favorite movies growing up. And I thought I would look ultra cool in a flight suit. So ultimately went the aviation route.
Yes.
And, on one spectrum, the Army is, aviation. On the other side of the spectrum is infantry, special forces, and Rangers. So I kept wondering for a while whether or not I made the right choice. And very unique opportunity at flight school. The commander made an announcement and said, guys, once in a lifetime opportunity, we're going to have a competition and send one of you to Ranger School.
Okay.
And have you guys ever heard of Ranger School?
Yes.
I'll
Yes.
share a little bit because
Yes,
I
please
feel
do.
it was great training for being a startup. Justin, great training for being a young parent like you are with young kids, because there was no sleep and incredible stress. So that was the overview of Ranger School. And to give you a little bit more detail, because I know you guys have heard the story, but a lot of people tuning in may not be familiar. So there's a lot of military doctrine and tactics in Ranger School, but at its core, it's a leadership course. And Justin, what they do is deprive you of everything you think you need to survive, namely food and sleep, and then put you in incredibly stressful situations. So they pour on the physical, mental, emotional stress, all in an effort to get you to break down.
Yeah.
So we're there with 340 of us on day 1. And if you make it straight through in 72 days, you live on 1 meal a day and 2 to 3 hours sleep a night. And during those 72 days, we lost 80% of our class.
Yeah.
I don't
So
doubt
there
it.
were 70 of us there on graduation day. And, kind of the mindset now is, well, I'm tired when, the little one wakes up in the middle of the night, but
Yeah.
I made it through Ranger School. Or, you know what, I've been going for quite a few days straight with very little sleep as an entrepreneur, but you know what, I made it through Ranger School. So that was a, great
Man.
experience early on in life to give you an idea how far your body can be tested, how far you can be pushed.
Yeah.
I just finished one of David Goggins' books. And
Yeah.
he wasn't in the Ranger. I think he did try to get into Ranger School, but he was Navy SEAL and went to that route. And just reading everything that they had to go through, holy moly, it will really break you down mentally.
And he is, an incredible story, everything he's done. And I believe from what I've been told, he is one of the very few people that went through Navy SEAL BUDS training
Yeah.
and Ranger School, and they're different. Ranger School is much longer, and it's a longer endurance, and SEAL is much shorter. And I think somebody had told me, who listened to him on a podcast, and they pressed him and said, well, which one was harder? Which one was more challenging? He said, you know what, it's hard to pick, but I think he just, did say, from what I was told, Ranger School was much more challenging given the
Oh,
length
wow.
and the endurance.
That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Neither one of them's easy, but
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I could only imagine. And
uh,
yeah, his whole philosophy basically is about the endurance and just keep on pushing yourself. I think he said on average people only use 40% of what they have in their tank, and he said you just got to keep pushing yourself.
God designed our bodies to be incredibly strong, and you just don't realize how far you can be pushed and how strong
Yeah.
you can be.
How do you feel like Ranger School or being a Ranger prepared you for like the next phases of your life once you get out of the military?
That's the life I've been living as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Back to priorities, God, family, country, because I am working an extensive amount of hours. and I want to be there for my kids for coaching. I want to be there when they have a school play. I want to be there for those type of activities. So I also can't cut back on what's happening from a business because there's just a lot going on with our business and our brand. But once sometimes the only thing that there's room to cut out is sleep. So I don't get the healthy 8 hours a night that most people say you need. But we found a way to work through that.
What company do you run, or what do you do for a career these days?
So Devin, Authentically American, we're an apparel brand. So think of us like a Nike or Land's End, but instead of made in China, it's all made here in the US.
That's awesome.
Which, to give you an idea how rare American made is, so Justin, when I graduated from West Point all the way back in 1993, over 50% of the apparel was made in the US. Today it's 3.
Yeah.
I mean, next to nothing's made here. And we started 7 years ago from a blank sheet of paper with a vision to build this iconic American brand that's truly American made. And I'm exhausted. Incredibly challenging. There's been quite a few flashbacks to Ranger School, but what is exciting, we've got some tremendous momentum building, and having started in 2017, we're on the verge of being that overnight success story. 7 years in the making.
Yes.
Hey,
That's
it usually takes 5 years or so to really know where your business is going to be at.
And Justin, we were talking earlier because you cut out the residential side of your landscaping business and said, okay, commercial's where we need to be. So we've gone through a similar process here because, Devin, there's 2 sides of our business. So you can go to our website, authenticallyamerican.us, and buy your new favorite polo, new favorite t-shirt or socks as an individual. But that is the ultra competitive side. We're competing against Patagonia like you're wearing,
Yeah.
your Land's
Yep.
End, and they have millions of dollars in marketing to spend that we
Yep.
don't. But 90% of our revenue is custom.
okay.
We work with thousands of businesses. Many of them are veteran owned, exactly like what you're wearing, Justin. Many of them are veteran owned. They're all patriotic, and they don't want their employees wearing made in China. They don't want them wearing Nike. They want to wear a brand like ours. Our biggest challenge, they don't know we exist.
Yeah. I need to turn my vice president on to you. He won't let us wear Nike. He found out that we were purchasing Nike. He's like, all right, you gotta cut that out. So yeah, I'll
Well,
definitely.
we'll pick that up later, but
Yeah,
Yes.
would love to be able to help you out.
that's awesome.
Because just a quick funny story, Justin, do you know where your shirt is made?
Check that
I do
tag.
not.
Take off that shirt, Justin.
I can't do it right now.
This is a family show, Devin.
I'm guessing probably China, Indonesia, Thailand.
Since most people don't know, our tagline is "Where's yours made?" Like, hey, Devin, great looking jacket. Where's yours made? And like, well, I have no idea. And it's designed to be provocative, Justin. We want you to look, and the next
Yeah.
time you take it off and you look and you see "Made in China," made anywhere but the U.S., we want you to be shocked and disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I think my company would love that as well. We have a lot of veterans that work in the landscape. Oh yeah, we
Cool.
have tons of veterans in the landscape industry, especially in our company nationwide.
I do have a question for you, Dean. What is the veteran community like? Because it seems like veterans always want to support other veterans. As a veteran, what's your community look like in that realm of your life?
So I will, start with the perspective from West Point. So there's roughly 1,000 per year that graduates, so 4,000 total. And there is no Greek system, so there's no fraternity, there's no sorority there. But I truly believe that, West Point is one of the largest and most successful fraternal organizations out there because it's referred to as the long gray line, and there's over 50,000 living grads. And this is not 100%, but Justin, if I reach out to a fellow grad and say, hey, I've got a challenge, I've got a problem, I need some help, they're going to, make it a priority to step up and help you.
That's
And
cool.
that's one thing that, is even extra special being part of that long gray line, that you've got this extended family of 50,000 plus that will look out for you, whether you're looking for dad advice or you're searching for a new job or you're moving to a new city. It's great to know that organization is out there. And then the other parts, after graduating from West Point, you join the Army. So it's a much, much larger organization, veterans in total. And we are a mission, focused brand. If you go to our website, authenticallyamerican.us, Devin, you would see that the heart of our mission is our passion for creating American jobs. We just happen to be in the apparel business
Okay.
and wrestled with a long time, how do we have that same level of, pride and same level of knowing you've got this higher sense of duty and purpose that those of us who served in the military did, knowing that we serve this great nation of ours. So we are definitely a purpose-driven, company. Mission is very important to us.
So you said the company's been around for 7 years or so. Is that correct? What was your stress level like starting a business from the ground up while also trying to be a present dad at the same time?
It was incredibly challenging and difficult, Devin, trying to
Yes.
make it all work out, but I'll go back even further, just reinforcing, the God, family, country, and, if you get those established first, how other things start to take care of itself. So I graduated from West Point in 1993. I mentioned choosing aviation, so went to flight school, learned how to fly helicopters. Then we mentioned Ranger School, and I served until 2000. And my first job after, leaving the Army was with a Big 5 consulting firm, KPMG.
Mhm.
And at that point, we only had one daughter, but then when we moved to Denver, we had a second daughter. And I'm a proud dad, and this was what Devin, when I lived in Highlands Ranch, so not far from you in Littleton.
Yeah.
And I would fly out Monday morning as a consultant, come back on Friday evening.
Oof.
And we
Yeah.
had some friends over on Friday night, and my daughter, like most dads, I think she's the smartest little girl in the world. So, we had out this little map puzzle that she built. I'm like, show what, our friends what you know. And she's like, well, here is California where my cousin lives, and here is Colorado where we live, and here is Texas where my daddy lives.
Oh,
I'm like,
how'd that make you feel?
dagger through my heart.
Yeah.
And I mean, my daughter, she was all of 4 years old and didn't even think, that I lived at home. And, after the kids went to bed, my wife and I talked about it and said, you know what? There's a lot of great experience I'm getting. The pay is fantastic, being a consultant. But if we're true to what's most important in life, we need to look for a new opportunity. So ended up transitioning from Big 5 consulting to Procter and Gamble.
Yeah.
Hey, that's where my dad worked for
Oh,
25 years up in Cincinnati.
Yes. So
Yeah.
the only challenge there, Justin, is, one of the reasons I left the Army was to stop moving.
hmm
Wanted
Yeah.
to plant roots, wanted to invest in the community. And Devin, we were talking about how much sunshine and how wonderful it is with the Rocky Mountains there.
Yep.
So I was there with P&G in Denver. And in 6 years, it wasn't 25 years, it was 6 years, Justin, but in 6 years, lived in 4 different cities.
Yeah. Yeah. So my dad, he was, what do you call it? A pharmaceutical scientist. He was the one that was
Wow.
making the formulas for Vicks 44, Pepto Bismol, like
Yeah.
all of those. And he was also in the Navy and would get stationed Alaska, China, Indonesia. He went to Brazil for, I mean, it was either Navy or it was PNG. He went everywhere,
Oh, yeah.
all over the place. And then when 9/11 happened, he actually got stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, which was my last year of high school. So he lived in Jacksonville, Florida for my whole entire senior year.
Wow.
Um, and then when he got done doing that, he moved to Columbus to take on another job that was more paying to help with college and everything like that. So yeah, I totally understand the dad not being able to constantly be there, but I know he wishes that he could have had more time back at the house for sure. But yeah, that
Right.
sounds
I'm at an intersection didn't know we had, Justin. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. That is fun. Where did you end up raising your kids at the most? Like, what city did you live in the most whenever they were in like their formative years?
So Devin, that was the challenge. We didn't
Yeah.
live anywhere.
Yeah. That's right. Okay. Just check it.
So to give you an idea, by the time we arrived in Nashville in 2010,
Mhm.
it was move number 10.
My gosh. Yeah.
Wow.
And my wife grew up in Tennessee, so a little further west in Jackson.
Mhm.
Okay.
She's a University of Tennessee grad, so a volunteer. And when we moved to Nashville in 2010, it was like a homecoming.
Oh,
It was a
fun.
wonderful place to raise a family. And I knew at that point if move number 11 was coming, I was going by myself. I think everyone was done moving, and there were a couple of catalysts to become an entrepreneur, but that was definitely one of them. Having the opportunity to say, you know what, we love Nashville. It's a great place to raise a family. It's a great town to build a business. So we're not going anywhere. So we've been here for 15 years now, and we absolutely love it.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. What made you start the apparel business?
So that is a great question, Justin. And I'd mentioned leaving the Army in 2000, and I tell everybody now I'm a veteran and an entrepreneur. But when I left the Army in 2000, couldn't even spell.
Yeah. Yeah.
No idea this world existed. The reason being, had an amazing dad growing up, and he worked for 30 years for a Fortune 500 company. And that's what most of his friends, most of our neighbors did. So that's the only world I knew.
Yeah, of course.
So that's how it ended up being P&G, and then also worked at Mars.
Yeah.
So brands like Crest and Tide and M&Ms. And Justin, you know this, with your dad having worked there. I mean, it's a massive company. It's an $80 billion dollar company, and had some great jobs and was well paid. But what really drives me is wanting to know I make a difference. Had some great jobs, but really in such a big company, felt like a cog in the wheel. But when you can't spell entrepreneur, I think I had it in me to start a business from scratch. So I entered the entrepreneurial ranks through acquisition and bought my first business in 2012. And I'll guarantee it's one that you and everyone tuning in has never heard of. But if you've been to a Predators game, or if you've been to a Titans game, and you've seen the military when they're playing the national anthem in those fancy dress military uniforms, it was the company I bought. So it was a government contractor that produced dress uniforms for the military.
Okay.
We produce thousands of uniforms every week for Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. And that's what exposed me to the apparel industry. And that's where I learned the shocking history to know that in 1993, when I graduated from West Point, over 50% was made in the U.S. It's 3. Yeah. So that is the initial catalyst going down that path, but also being passionate about creating American jobs.
Yeah.
I initially thought I want to win more contracts, and I thought we'll create more jobs. But I realized as a government contractor, it's really a bidding process. So, Justin, if you and I are bidding on a contract and you had it before and I won, since your job's transferred to me, and there's no real job creation.
Yeah.
And that was that light bulb moment for me that said, what if? What if, instead of being a government contractor, what if we built a brand? And I thought back to the days of Crest and Tide and M&Ms. And Devin, I also thought, what if, instead of what 97% of brands do and chase cheap labor overseas, what if we made the intentional choice to produce right here in the U.S.? And that's where it started in 2017, from a blank sheet of paper with a vision to build this iconic American brand. And I'm exhausted. I mean, it's been incredibly challenging, but, even more energized. And I wish my entire team would have an opportunity to say a quick hello, because you'd hear that same level of passion and enthusiasm, getting back to military and service to country, and, the heart of our mission being our passion for creating American jobs.
That's great. Where is your base of operations at?
So, great question. And just to give some perspective on the apparel industry, so the most predominant model for manufacturing is contracted. So Nike, for example, produces in China, Bangladesh, Vietnam, all around the world, but they don't own those facilities. It's contracted. So same model for us, but instead of all overseas, it's Texas, it's North Carolina, it's Georgia. So 11 states here in the U.S. And actually, as I'm thinking about this, Justin, can I have a little bit of fun and show you one of our products?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because you said your dad's a Navy veteran, right?
Yes.
So we'll definitely have some fun here. So obviously we know when it comes to the Army-Navy rivalry, who your family roots for.
Yes.
How about you, Devin? You lean more to the Navy, and Justin, or Army?
I want to say my grandpa served in World War II, and I feel like he was Navy. I'm not positive, but I'm going to say he was more Navy. And just, I've heard Justin's stories about the Navy more than anywhere else. So I'm going to lean Navy for this conversation.
Well, this
Thank you, Devin.
conversation was going so well until right now. So as part of the consumer offering that I mentioned, that 10%, you can go to our website and we do have collegiate licenses. So we have Army, Navy,
Cool.
Air Force, all the service academies and military schools. This is one of my favorite shirts. Can you see that?
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
Army.
Go
Nice.
Army.
And I wish, Justin, you were in my office, or I'd love to be back out in Denver and Littleton, because if you guys could feel this, you'd be like, "Dean, that has got to be the softest t-shirt I've ever felt." And that's by design, because who doesn't love a nice soft t-shirt? And it's not just the fabric. We use a soft hand print to include tagless.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Nice.
So have you ever been to an Army Navy game? Or
No, have
No, but
not, sadly.
I've seen them on TV.
I mean, add
They're
it to your
insane.
bucket list, because it is an incredible experience. And after you attend, you really feel great, a great sense of pride in this great nation of ours.
Mhm.
But this t-shirt has our innovation, our sweat activated print innovation. So Justin, tell me if you can read what this spells when I spray it.
What?
The
Beat
Navy
Navy?
beat Navy.
And a little bit bigger if you couldn't read the fine print.
Beat Navy. I saw on your Instagram about these sweat induced logos or
Yeah.
whatever
That's
it was.
awesome.
So,
That's
being a West Point grad, two of my favorite words to appear are beat Navy. But Justin, back to 90% of our revenue being custom. Whatever you want printed, whatever you want magically to appear, we can do. So we've done hundreds and hundreds of custom designs. And our businesses now will often have their values or have their mission statement magically appear,
That's cool.
reinforcing the value of hard work.
that would be cool for the landscape industry. I mean, they would definitely be
Yeah.
sweating. Yeah.
And I highlight that because obviously veteran owned and American made, is very important to us. But at the core of who we are, we're a consumer brand. And unless you say, wow, that's my new favorite shirt or my new favorite socks, nothing else matters. We really need to deliver that wow product experience.
Yeah. How did you think of that sweat producing logo? That's interesting.
I tell you, Justin, but I'd have to kill you, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. It's called proprietary, Justin.
I'm so
And it's
sorry.
actually not proprietary, Devin. It's been around for 10 years.
Has it really? Okay.
But it's hard to do in two ways. One, from a manufacturing standpoint, it's hard to do it.
Yeah.
But then the other one that is, equally hard is communicating it. Because if you say, hey, this hidden message going to appear, people are like, what? So if we could do a demo every time and people get it, but it's even harder to communicate.
That makes sense.
That's awesome.
I think it's really fun that you said you have tagless on it, because my younger kids, my 7 and my 3-year-old, have like a vendetta against tags. Like, I don't know why.
Well,
I've never thought to cut the tags off my shirt, but like the second we give them a new t-shirt, they immediately walk up and they're like, I don't like this tag. And I'm like, thank you for communicating your preferences. Why am I cutting the tag off of this again?
Yeah, so your kids, our t-shirts, Devin, would be their new favorite.
That's it. That's it.
oh,
When you say your company does apparel, what all is included under the umbrella of apparel? Because I usually just think like t-shirts and stuff like that, but I'm sure it's more than that.
So that's why I say, Devin, think of us like a Nike or Land's End. So we're a brand, but similar product offering. So not only is it t-shirts like I just showed you, but we have quarter zips, pullovers,
Yeah.
jackets, dress shirts, socks, ball caps, things like that.
Mhm.
We don't do a sport coat. We don't do dress slacks like that, but an offering like that.
How involved is your family with the business? Is it mostly you doing it? Does your wife help out with it? Or is this kind of your thing that you're doing with some other people as well?
So it started with just my wife and I and some investors, and she's been involved. And, her biggest thing now, continues to be aligned with the priorities in our family.
Mhm.
But she's on our knees every morning praying for our business and praying for, guidance and wisdom for me. But, as we continue to grow and expand, we, add to our team. And, it's an exciting time right now, because not that there wasn't interest, there wasn't as broad an interest, but think of a lot of the discussions, and not even to get into politics,
Yeah.
on tariffs and Buy American. I mean, we've got a nice tailwind coming right now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Finding, Justin, there's a lot more companies like yours that, if they knew they had an American-made option that was competitively priced, they would absolutely switch.
just Peachtree itself, we have about 150 people.
Wow.
And then LUSA, or Landscapes USA, is our parent company out of Austin, Texas. They own about 11 other companies throughout the United States, from San Diego, Denver, Austin, Texas, Denver, or Dallas, Houston, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Atlanta, and Orlando. So we're all over the place.
I'm getting a landscaping education. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Hey, we're getting an apparel education. So
I'll tell you one more fun story, since we're talking about American made, and this is, a new Tennessee resident and this a story involving Pete Hegseth. So this is not politics. We're going to stay apolitical. And just so you know where our brand stands, when I'm asked, which way do you lean, red or blue, left or right, I tell everybody, we're not red or blue. We're red, white, and blue. We believe in the American worker. But one thing that we've been blessed with, Justin, unlike the P&G days where we would literally have Super Bowl ad budgets,
Yeah.
my marketing budget's about this big.
yeah,
Although we don't have a big marketing budget, we do have this feel-good American story being better known, American made, creating American jobs. So the page we've taken out of the P&G Mars book was earned media. So we wanted to get as much free press and PR as we could. And we've been blessed with some incredible national TV coverage. We've been on Fox and Friends multiple times. We've been on
cool.
MSNBC and on Forbes magazine. And
That's
the
awesome.
story that I will share is the very first time we were invited on Fox and Friends, well, on national TV, was on Fox and Friends in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And I met Pete Hegseth backstage. He's now the Secretary of Defense, but back then he was the host of Fox and Friends Weekend. And I gave him this fun pair of socks.
Nice.
So it's a mismatch. It's one's red, one's blue. But a year later, I was invited back, and this time Pete was interviewing me. And he's like, Dean, it is so great to see you again. I still have the socks you gave me. They're my favorite pair.
That's cool.
Awesome.
And I said, Pete, please say that on national TV. And he did, and you can imagine the spike in traffic.
That's awesome.
And he reinforced a key point, because when he was talking about them, he didn't mention anything about them being American made. He said they're so soft, so comfortable. They have this fun patriotic design, being a mismatched red and blue. But to your question earlier, if you read the fine print, it says designed in Nashville and made in North Carolina. And that's one of the states where we have, manufacturing. So socks we make in North Carolina, the t-shirts we make in Texas. And Justin, what's fun, with the B2B focus and custom, we've done hundreds and hundreds of designs, because I joke that nobody wears ties anymore. Socks are the new ties in just a fun way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, very much so. Yes.
Our clients will buy custom socks, wipe off our branding, whatever design, whatever pattern, whatever logo you want. And it's a great way to help with employee engagement as a fun gift. Or a lot of our customers will use them as client gifts.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I mean, we what we call is swag
Yes.
is what we give
That's right.
to
Yes.
we give to all of our clients, because we work with a lot of property management groups, whether it's HOAs
Oh, I bet.
or apartment complexes, and then we do some industrial type stuff as well, and hospitals, and we are constantly buying swag for them. One
Mhm.
thing that I really liked was, I don't know if you know the brand Orca.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
They're going out of business, by the way.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah, but they were designed in Nashville.
Mhm.
I don't know exactly where they were made at, but I thought that was a really cool thing. So I bought a lot of the little chasers with the Peachtree logo and would give those out to our clients, just because it was something that was like homemade, basically, or not just from the home. Yeah,
Now, I do know Orca fairly well. I know one of the original founders. And
cool.
so the coolers, the Orca coolers,
Yes.
those are actually made here in Tennessee.
Cool.
The steel tumblers, and it doesn't matter whether it's Orca or Yeti or any other brand, there is not a single manufacturing facility here in the U.S. So
Okay.
those Orca tumblers, all made in China.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, I knew, because it said designed in Nashville, made somewhere
Yeah,
else.
It's
I
very
remember
specific. Yeah.
I remember that, but the coolers, that's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah.
One of my friends was one of the graphic designers for him. So
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, I went during their family and friends, one of their family friends days, and was able to buy like 7 coolers and a whole bunch of tumblers for like $300, which one
Nice.
cooler itself usually is like $300.
$300. Yes.
Yeah. So I took advantage and bought a lot of stuff.
Absolutely.
That's
But
I'll
awesome.
tell
yeah.
you, Justin, what now is really making me feel good when we have stories like this that our clients will share with me. They will share stories like, well, Dean, we had an event on Friday and we made everyone wear the shirt, but
Yeah.
they want to wear it on Saturday because it's their new favorite. And they already have a high level of engagement with their company like you do with Peachtree. But a lot of times our clients will not only make the switch, the intentional choice for American made, but they will share with them the why, whether it's the veteran tie or the American made or just the intentional choice they're making. And that just, furthers a higher level of employee engagement, which leads to lower turnover, which leads, as you know, to a more successful business.
So, Dean, how we end every episode is we ask every guest just 5 questions, and Justin will ask the first question.
First question: did you have any backup names for your kids? If so, what
So
were they?
we did, and I'll tell you a quick story about our son we adopted from Ethiopia because we have a K and D theme. So my wife is Kelly, oldest daughter's Kara, then Kayla, and then it's Dean, Dylan, and we had planned on Drake.
Okay.
And we had, heard that my son's name was Askel, and I was in Ethiopia, picking him up, and I was asking, the ladies in the orphanage, well, what's Askel? What's the name? Is he named after a family member? Is he named after somebody in Ethiopia? What's the background of the story? And they were trying in broken English, trying to explain it to me. And one of them said, wait a second. She went one of the rooms and came back with a Bible, flipped to Ezekiel and said, that's what he's named for.
Really?
And my wife and I, we got home and we said, you know what? Other than the shirt on his back and his name, he's brought nothing with him. So the D theme was out and he was Gal, and that is a super fun, cool, unique name.
Yeah,
That
definitely.
is. That's
That's
cool.
a pretty cool story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Next question. Do you have a favorite TV, movie, or like a fictional character dad?
So favorite TV dad then, not favorite movie.
We can do either one. Sometimes we say TV and the person's like, oh, I don't know. Then I'm like, what about movie? And like, oh, yeah, I have like 20.
Yeah.
This is probably the opposite of that. I mean, it's very
Yes.
entertaining, very funny, and I'm forgetting, but Al Bundy?
Yeah. Was that Married with Children?
Married with
Yeah.
Children.
Married with Children. Yes, yes, yes.
Back to God, Family, Country. I want to be known as, a God-fearing Christian. I want to be an amazing husband and incredibly dad. And that's like the opposite. Sometimes you learn from great examples. Sometimes you learn from ones that are not so good. So that would be one that, a lot of
That's
laughter
awesome.
and humor.
Yes.
Yes, for sure.
Not the
Oh my
dad.
gosh.
That's how like Homer Simpson feels, where it's like, well, he's been a TV dad for like 30 years, but there is not a single characteristic of Homer Simpson that I want to be as a father.
It's the same, that same vein.
Yes, it
Right.
is.
So one of our next questions is a go-to replacement curse word, but you don't seem like you're a person that curses very much, do you?
That means he might have a really good replacement curse word because he doesn't curses though.
That is true.
So I try to avoid that, 4-letter words. So I try to
Yeah.
avoid those. And that's, it really struck me because I wasn't always this way, but, becoming a Christian and becoming a husband and becoming a dad, I said, you know what? I can make a better choice. And there's sometimes when I got to bite my lip and you get angry, like, oh,
Yes.
yeah.
What's whenever you're in those moments, is there any word, any noise you utter? Like my dad would always say peanut. Like I like guys being such a peanut. Or do you have any word you put whenever you don't say a 4-letter word? Is there anything you say instead?
I think I tend to not say much at all and probably have this mean look that comes out of my face,
Just
the old
completely
Army
red.
Ranger look. Like, uh-oh, we're in trouble.
You just say to yourself, if I open my mouth right now, I'm not going to be proud of anything that comes out of it. I'm just keeping it shut.
Sometimes we have to make that choice.
That's a smart choice sometimes.
It is a smart choice sometimes. Next question. Do you have a favorite? What's like your favorite kids' toy or activity or thing that you did with your kids whenever they were younger?
So we are a big sports family.
Mhm.
And I was a hockey player. My daughters were soccer players. My youngest son is now a basketball player. So one of the greatest joys I have in life was being their coach.
Cool.
And was a fairly decent hockey coach because I played hockey and could do that with him out there, and still playing a men's beer league right now, so playing men's adult hockey. But quick funny story, because my daughters were soccer players and never played soccer, knew nothing about soccer, so the tactic was it's going to be more hockey like, get them to be physical, aggressive, and really going after it. And Devin, I knew I was in trouble and it was time to hang up the coaching hat when, my daughter and some of her friends said, "Hey, coach, can you teach me some moves?" I'm like, "I don't have any moves. It's time to hang up the cleats because I am past my coverage."
That's
Goodness.
my 7-year-old, we found out a lot of her friends play soccer, so I just started assistant coaching her. And it is different. I grew up playing soccer and enjoy it a lot. And it is different to coach it because and you try to coach like to the comprehension level. So like I'm trying to teach a 7-year-old how to get into space and she has no idea what that means at all. And I'm like, if you just drift to the right, you'll be open. She's like, open for what? And I'm like, the ball. That's the purpose of the game. What game is it? Soccer. All right. So can you let's work on kicking the ball, making contact. We should probably start there. Let's start there instead.
Well, soccer and hockey have some similarities,
Oh, absolutely.
correct? So, yeah. Yeah, I still have no idea about hockey or soccer. I just know hockey. I love the fights and people smashing into each other, and then soccer, man,
You'll
they
learn it
have
one
to
day,
have.
Justin. You'll learn it one day,
I
okay?
know. I still look at him like, how is that offsides? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, don't worry. Everyone
But
else in the crowd is also screaming, how is that offside? So you're not alone in that scenario.
I grew up as a basketball fan. UK basketball was yeah. That was my dream as a little kid, and I was UK everything.
You also lived in Cincinnati like in the 90s whenever Kentucky basketball like in the 90s was like perfect, right? Like they were insane in the 90s.
Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah.
They were really good.
So it makes sense.
All right, Dean. Next question.
All right.
Last question.
All right.
Best parenting advice that you've received over the years.
So one of my favorite words that was introduced to me was intentional. Because, being a great dad, being an incredible husband, being a successful business doesn't happen by accident. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be deliberate. And, I'm very intentional on how I manage my business and my calendar and how I plan my time. So it's the same way since I want to be an amazing husband and an incredible dad. So, one example, we've always had daddy-daughter dates with our kids. So they get programmed on the calendar. We do that every month. We've got boys' night out. So that intentional is the whole mindset that I have on how I want to be a successful dad.
That is cool.
I feel like that's the piece of advice to anyone who's about to get married or have kids is intentionality. Because if you think you're intentional right now is who you are, whenever you get married, you're going to realize you need to up it. You need to get a little bit better. Then you'll have a kid and you'll be like, you need to be a little bit better. So, and there's, I think intentionality is something I'm always like, oh, I should probably be a little bit better at this.
That's my favorite word, and some of the best advice comes from that.
Yeah. Now, quick question: When did you start doing the daddy-daughter dates?
So, Justin, we were limited to 5 questions, so that's number 6.
Yeah, come on, man, Justin.
I am just joking. So,
well done.
It started at a very young age, and I can't remember, it was 3 or 4, but I mean, the daddy-daughter dates, I mean, as soon as they were old enough and, early on, I would let them choose. And they'd be like, let's go to Chuck E. Cheese. And at one point, I'm like, okay, dad needs to choose because I can't go to Chuck E. Cheese daddy-daughter
anymore. Yes.
And to me, it's less about, where I'm going. It's who I'm doing it with. And, when I'm doing it with my daughter, when I'm doing it with my son, whether I'm having a date night with my wife, I mean, that's really what's most important is who I'm doing it with, not what I'm doing.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Great.
Well, Dean, the only other thing we do to close out an episode is just a moment for like self-promotion. So like if we want to like, what's the website for your clothing, for your apparel and all that? Do you do Instagram or any social medias or anything like that? How do we follow you or get in touch with you if we wanted to?
So our website is absolutely the best place to go. So if you're an Army fan, I showed you the one, but Justin, you'll be happy to know we don't discriminate. We do have a Go Navy version.
There you go.
Good.
So whether you wanted, a fun T-shirt like that, you wanted a polo or, Pete Hegseth's favorite socks, authenticallyamerican.us is the best place to go. And you can either buy as an individual consumer or you'll see an opportunity, on how to become a client of ours because we work with thousands of businesses like yours, Justin, who, have branded apparel and have, very patriotic values. And if they know they now have an opportunity for a high quality American-made choice, they'll head that direction. So the best place to go is our website, authenticallyamerican.us.
Awesome. Yeah. that's pretty much it. We just sit here, hang out, get to know each other, and it's a lot of fun to be able to do it.
Well, hopefully at some point we'll have an opportunity to break bread and catch up in person.
Yes, that'd be awesome.
All right.
But
Dean,
thank
it was
you.
a pleasure.
Yes, thank you so much for your time, Dean, and thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thankful for Steve to make the introduction. So
yes, absolutely.
You guys, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you for listening to the episode.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Imperfect Dads Podcast.
And make sure to subscribe and rate us 5 stars wherever you listen to us.
The music is provided by the Wildfeathers.
And all episodes are produced and edited by me.
Make sure to tune in Mondays for new episodes.